So the quota we had was to paint around 12 to 14 backgrounds a week. Painting for TV animation is completely different than doing visual development for movies, than doing concept art for games, or even painting for yourself. You have to be very efficient, fast, and your backgrounds have to all match. And what do I mean by matching? So basically in TV, there's different shots for the same background. So let's say you are in a sequence that you are in a room. There's gonna be one shot of my bed, and then there's gonna be another shot of my desk, and so on, so forth. So your job as a background painter is to have all of these backgrounds matching so people believe that they are in the same location. Hello, I'm Clarissa, and I worked as a background painter in an animation studio called Mercury Filmworks for the last couple of months. You may know the studio because of a show called Hilda, but they have a bunch of other shows and they mostly do TV animation. There I was working in the team to paint backgrounds every single week. What does a week as a background painter look like? So the quota we had was to paint around 12 to 14 backgrounds a week. And that is a super scary number for people that are studying animation and want to get into background painting. Especially in TV animation, everything has to be done very, very fast. But honestly, it was very, very doable. And every week we had different kinds of backgrounds, and we had some that were easier than others. When they mean 15 backgrounds, they're not meaning like 10 establishing shots, like 10 giant backgrounds with like a full forest with fire and everything. No, you don't have to do all of that. Maybe it's like one big background and then maybe a wall and then floor and everything. And the nice thing about background painting is that everything is provided for you. In TV animation, there is another department called layout. It's the people that they take the storyboard to a final background. This background is in black and white and only with line work. Background painting is a glorified coloring book. So they already give you the line art, and they also give you the colors for the background. It's not something that you have to figure out, and the only thing that you have to do is paint and render, which is amazing.
Editor Clarissa, disclaimer. Not every production is the same, and sometimes you will have to do the layout and background paint. But ideally, in an ideal production, you would not have to do everything, every single job there is.
This is the thing that I like the most about doing my own pieces. And that was basically my job for the last 6 months. And I'm gonna tell you how we did it. Hello, okay, now we're in my computer and we are going to start painting. Okay, so this background is basically going to be our color key and our style guide for this background. So this is a background I created a couple of months ago for my graduation from college. This is the layouts that we have. Did a bunch of layouts for this sequence, let's say. So it's basically this guy seeing the temple from afar. I'm going to explain a little bit the layers that we have. Layering is super important for background painting, but the good thing is that usually when we are going to paint layout, this is something that layout already figures out. They already divide up all of the layers for animation, and the layouts may be very different depending on like the needs of what's going to be animated. Let's say if there's like doors opening and stuff, that's going to be a little bit different, but this is kind of how it goes. Every studio has a different layering system, but this is kind of like an overall one that we have. This is our size relationship. So when layout does the layouts, they put a little character size over there, check the proportions of everything. So, well, we don't really need this guy anymore. Setup is basically where the camera is, and we always have to paint outside the camera. So this little square over here is the camera, and we always paint outside of it, and it's in setup. So setup is things, it's not something that background painting uses, but it's something that animation and people after us use. Okay, basically layer 1 is the one that is, and even the layering for this one is not great because I didn't really make it to animate, but still. Layer 1 is the one in front, so it kind of goes from front to back, and layer 1 is the one on top, layer 2 is the one in the middle, layer 3, these items, layer 4, the trees, and layer 5 is the temple, and then background, I'm gonna name it BG, is another layout. Some backgrounds will have more layers than others, but this is kind of like an overall one. And yeah, we're gonna start painting right away, okay? Usually the first thing I do when painting is to do the sky, It's kind of the easiest thing, and it kind of gives us a base to work from. So we're gonna go for the sky. For each layer, we're going to do a group. So we're gonna start doing the BG group. The last layer usually is only called BG. I don't really know why, but it's basically, nothing is gonna animate in this layer. So it's called BG. For background painting, I know that a lot of people say that color picking is bad, but usually when we are background painting from a color key that is already done, we color pick from it, or sometimes this image is not, it's flat, so we don't really have the layers. But if we had the layers of that color key, we would transfer the layers from one layer to another. We're just gonna color pick the color of the sky. So we're just gonna fill the layer. For filling, I'm in Mac. I use Option Backspace. Really easy, really quick. Here in the sky, we have a little bit of these kind of like Steven Universe-y clouds. I will not put the clouds because I feel that the sky is already very full. If the sky were the biggest part of the background, I would make those clouds, but in this case, I don't really need to make them because there's a lot going on. We already have our first layer, and we're going to L5. So we're going from back to front. Every background painter is different. Not everyone has the same way of painting. You just do what works for you. Some people like working from front to back. However, sometimes when a background is really big, I go from like the biggest thing to the smallest. It just depends. But yeah, we make another group. For grouping, we can use Command G if you are in Mac, or Control G, or you can do this little group icon here in the bottom of the screen. The group has to be named the same thing as the layer, okay? So everything has to be in groups. Even the line art has to be in the same group, because people after you, or the production, they usually flatten the layers and they make each layer a PNG or a PNG usually. That way it's easier to animate on top of it. They don't really use the full Photoshop document. Another fun thing about background painting is that once you are in the group, if you respect the group, inside, you don't really need to name all of the layers. It is helpful, but not always. For this temple, I'm gonna use the same color as the statue. Another thing about background painting is that not everything is going to be figured out for you. Some colors of some things will not be in the color key. So for example, the temple is not in the color key, so it's something that you have to kind of assume from the color key. You have to also talk with the other background painters in your team. If someone else has the same tower or the same castle as you or whatever, to talk to them like, hey, what color are you gonna make this? What color are you gonna make that? Because it has to match, okay? So we're gonna do that. So when background painting, what I would always do is that I would usually grab the whole section over here, kind of do this and put a mask over it. Because sometimes there's a lot of things that there's mistakes, or sometimes the director changes everything. So it's just easier to use masks. So when using masks, so you press this little button over here. I bet there is a shortcut, but I don't really know it. Sorry about that. Another thing I do is that these layers, sometimes I hide these layers and I kind of close it so we can fill everything. It's easier. I go to the magic wand tool and select outside the object. And then I invert. For inverting, you can use Command-Shift-I, or sometimes you can use this little thing that comes with Photoshop and press here, invert selection, in the mask. So when you create the mask, so when it's white, you can see everything. And then when it's black, it's basically erasing. So I go to my black color, and then I press Option Backspace. So this is to fill with black your selection. So now we have a very clean selection of our little temple. Sorry, I said tower and castle. Sorry, my English right now is not great. But yeah, so we have our castle. Another thing is that sometimes some shows will have a lot of textures. Some shows are very flat. This is pretty flat, but I will make a little gradient. So usually once I make the main selection, I put a bunch of layers on top and clip them. So for clipping, I use Option and I press like the middle between of these two layers. But you can also do right click and then create clipping mask. So that's a way of doing it. But yeah, it's just really easy. It's just Option and then you click. And I grab a little soft round brush. You can press enter if you want to see the brush. So you're not seeing the brush here, and then if you press enter, you are able to see the brush. So there we have it. Another thing is that values usually in the back are lighter than the ones in the front. But we're gonna make all of the base colors first, and then we're gonna add shadows and everything like that. So this is basically our main tower. I'm also gonna grab the color for the shadows and add them. And then for that, I will make a shadow layer. This layer we can also mask. So basically, fill it all, mask, and then now we have a clean layer for our shadows. And then I usually use the lasso tool in the areas I want for shadow. And I use shift to add more. You can also, while pressing shift, you can press option to make it geometrical. But if you use this, you can do curves and geometry at the same time. I also kind of have the light in my mind. You have to see the color key and you have to check where the light is coming from. So the light over here, I see it coming from this side. So the light over here is gonna be the same side. So yeah, and also I always have the reference next to me on Photoshop. It's really easy. Beam, beam, beam. Beam, boom, beam, bam, 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 beam, 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 beam. It's honestly really relaxing. When I was at work, I finished, I almost finished the entirety of one piece. And we have our shadows. Sometimes these are in multiply. So you do all of the base colors first and then multiply. But in this case, we don't. Then I'm grabbing just a green color from the color key and just painting. Also, the farther you are, the less detail you have. In a show, people are not really gonna zoom into your background. And if it's gonna be like a really close zoom, they will tell you, and the background will be huge. So you will notice when it's really big. And this is our second layer. I'm also gonna, because I see a little bit of a bounce light here, so I'm gonna add a little bit of that. Another layer, flip. All right, so sometimes the liner will not be complete, so that's something that you have to have in consideration. We're naming the background again. We are putting the group. Another thing that you can do, you can color the layers. Like, for example, this you can go to right click into the group and then color, and then you can kind of color it so it's easier for you to like know which layer you're on. And it also looks cute. I just like how it looks. I will do this color that is in the back because we are a little bit further back. We'll just do that color. Another thing is you can see is that the line art, when you select with line art, it's the lines are not perfect. And there's kind of like a hole between them. So what I do is that when we're selecting, I go to select, modify, and then expand. And then I do like 3 pixels. So this expands, you can see it was even a little bit too much. So, but we can do that. So you expand it. And what I do again is that I select outside, delete, and now we have perfectly filled layer. And then you can see that these have like this very grainy texture. This is blend mode actually. It's called dissolve. Okay, so with this blend mode, you can see it's like very grainy. I really like the effect it does, but yeah, so we're gonna use it like from the bottom up. We may change this later on. I wanna put like a layer on top of this, like a yellow, because when things are farther in the distance, they kind of lose, they blend with the sky. And I put this, it's gonna be called atmosphere. I put this on top of the line art, that way also the line art is affected by it. But we are going to put all of this in a group and then mask it again. That way nothing from the atmosphere leaves, like the silhouettes. Because if it's outside, it may affect how the sky looks, or it may affect the animation. So we have to always group it. So editor Clarissa here. Who knew? As I was editing the video, I noticed that I didn't really explain to you guys how to select the entire layer and then mask it like in a group. So I'm here again with Luffy. And basically it's really easy. You just do command and then you go on top of like the layer that you want to select, like the entire layer. And then, yeah, just command or control in Windows and just select the layer. And there you have it. And then you create a group and then you press the mask thing. And then that's the way you mask the entire group. But what happens if a group has multiple layers and you want to like mask the entire group? So let's say I group this entire, like these 3 layers. And then what I do is if I want to like have everything like silhouetted, I select every single layer there is. So I press command on top of like the image of the layer and then I boop, boop, sorry. So yeah, so I press command on top of the layer, but then I do command shift. Like once I select the first layer, I do command shift and then I select the other ones. So that's like selecting more layers. And then you can also unselect the layers. Like if you press command option, you like take off the layers. But in this case, we want Command Shift, select everything, and then we press the mask group, everything. And then now your group is masked. So if you want to draw anything else and you don't want it to leave the group, like the silhouette of the group, there you go. Another thing I'm gonna do is that I'm actually, because the back over here doesn't really have line art, and it was more of my choice. But in order for this liner to look a little bit farther away, I'm gonna color it a little bit like the bushes. And then we're gonna do the same thing that we did before. So we're gonna grab everything over here, group it, and then mask it. So that way nothing leaves a silhouette. We're gonna group it again, then name it the same as the line art, L3. And then we're gonna make another layer under this, and we're gonna start painting. We're gonna grab, and we're gonna do it color by color, because the other things that we did didn't have as much color as this. As like, let's say the temple didn't have as much color as this area that we're gonna do. The palm trees, I'm doing the selection for these ones because I'm kind of lazy to fix the line art. And then we'll grab this. We can paint it underneath that layer. But yeah, you don't have to be perfect, because as I said before, background painting, you have to paint a bunch of backgrounds in a day. Like my quota was like 3 backgrounds a day. So you have to be really fast, and you don't have to be caught up in the details. Just as long as like it works and you have like a lot of like gaps, you're gonna be fine. And always keep on referencing your color key and see, you have to copy how the shadows, you have to copy everything. And also, though, if you're doing background painting, it's way faster to use the lasso tool than manually painting everything. Manually painting everything just takes a long time. So if you want to merge 2 layers, like you want to do, if you do right click and then merge layers. But what I do is that I press Command E and it automatically merges everything that you have selected. It's really easy. Do another layer for our shadow. So here I'm actually not gonna follow the shadows like this, because this is a main focal point and I don't really want a shadow here. I'd rather have it on this side. So it's, but if the color key has this specific statue in the shadow is on the other side, you have to respect where the shadow is in the color key and respect the original concept art. Okay, shadow, here we go. We're gonna do our bounce light as well. I'm gonna select it. I'm gonna select the shadows. Another thing for selecting is that you can press Command and touch the layer, and that's gonna do a selection. So that's really easy. So bounce light is usually the light that comes so when light hits an object with a lot of color, the color reflects on the objects that are close by. So this is basically the statues reflecting the grass. And then I want to do a little bit of light on top of here, so we're gonna do another layer. We're still gonna have our shadow layer selected, but we're just gonna invert it, and that's basically our light level, our light layer. So we're gonna make it a little lighter, paint, and then we can do some detail work, make another layer on top, and then we're just gonna paint here manually, just little details. And then we're gonna add, so we can also group this and make it statue, and then with these we can name palm trees. As you can see, these palm trees don't really have any kind of rendering, so we're just gonna leave it, but the leaves do. So we're gonna copy a little bit of that, bam bam bam, and I'm gonna select a little bit because I don't want it on everything, and paint a little gradient. Some leaves are like fully black, so that's where these lines we have, so we're gonna paint black over there. So now we got this layer. Another thing that I forgot to say is that you can see that this liner is kind of like grainy. This is a really easy way of spicing up line art. So what we do is that we grab our L3 layer, like our line art layer, we duplicate it, and then we go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then we blur it a little bit. I think our radius is like 0.8 pixels. So very subtle, but it makes it look really cool, right? And we're gonna do that for every layer, so let's not forget that. So copy. For copying, I press Ctrl J instead of Ctrl C, Ctrl V, because if you do Ctrl C, Ctrl V, like copy paste, you see that it moves, like the layer moves. So you press Command J, perfect copy, and then you go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and the Gaussian blur automatically goes to the same thing that you did last time, so you don't really have to do anything, just okay. And then I go to every single line art layer and do that. Okay, now we're in L2. Group again, I'll put the name of the same layer, and then we're gonna start painting. I'm gonna fix a little bit of this liner just so we can select everything. And we're not gonna do the filter thing just yet in the Gaussian blur, because I want to have like very clean line art when I'm selecting things. So let's see if I can select the everything's inside. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then we're gonna do again, select, modify, expand, 2 pixels maybe. And then I'm just gonna fill everything in. Also, sometimes if the layout is a little bit unclear and sometimes you don't really know what is what, you do your best to figure out. Everything selected. So now that everything's selected, I kind of just render. I turned everything on and then start rendering. Is not that much that we have to render. My dissolve yet again. So I go to a soft brush and then I do dissolve. Render trunk layer, do another layer, and then I kind of copy paste what I use for the shadows. I will kind of paint on top of the shadows so we kind of have a little bit of rendering over here. I'll kind of make it less dark though. A little bit less light, sorry. You can see your swatch over here. So if you go to next to color, there's swatches. You can go back to the color that you had before. Gotta remember there's a little bit of shadow from the moss. Now let's paint this guy. And this guy I think needs more soft edges, so a little bit of that. Render a little bit. Oh, sorry, I did it in the same layer. Like, painting in the same layer is fine sometimes. In this case, it's fine, but yeah, don't do like I did. Do another layer, because it's always better to have another layer, especially when painting for TV, because you never know when your director is gonna ask you to change something, so let's just be careful with that. Perfect. And now we're on our palm tree. Because this palm tree is closer to us, I will do a little bit of rendering, but not too much. I might add just a little bit of like shadow, kind of like this color maybe. Oh, and let's do a little bit of dissolve. So here we have a little bit of atmosphere. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go to the top and add this atmosphere. I'm just gonna add it to this side. I don't want to have it on our tree. There we go. And you see that there's this is because I don't have the mask just yet. So let's add the mask. In this case, because we have a lot of layers, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select them all. So I press Command, select this layer. Then I press Command, Shift, press each layer. And then we're going to be adding all of the masks that we did. Let's even include the line art. And let's group it all together. And then mask over here, click mask. And then now the atmosphere is not interrupting, but I think it's a little bit too harsh. We can also select things if there's no line art. And then we use a soft brush and it creates this really nice silhouette, hard versus soft edge. I think I'm gonna do this same thing in the moss. Then we're gonna work on this path. I think I'm gonna make it darker in front and then lighter in the back. That way we emphasize our character that's going to be over there. Then one thing that I'm gonna do right now is check the values. So this is something that I do as I'm working. I press Command Y and it turns to black and white. The way to do that is to go to View, Proof Setup, then Custom. And then this thing is gonna show up. And then I put it in dot grain 25. Okay, and then every time you press Command Y, it's going to turn it into black and white, which is really cool and really useful. You can also, okay, I shared this tip, another tip in another video, and people were kind of mad. Some people were saying also that, well, this is another technique. You can fill everything in with black and then go to color, and this is also going to show the values. But as you can see, the values are a little bit different, but essentially it's kind of the same. The Command Y is a good technique to use. So as you can see, values are pretty okay. I think this area we can make lighter because our character is here and we really want to emphasize this guy because here's where action will be set. Okay, so we want to emphasize that guy, but we're gonna do that a little bit later when we have everything painted. Okay, now we're in our last layer. Let's go. And it's been only like 40 minutes of painting, maybe even less. So yeah, it's really fast, so let's go. Okay, so for selecting, what I'm gonna do in this case, I'm gonna select outside, then invert, and then this is gonna make like a little mask for everything. Not everything is gonna be selected because there was a little space over here, but so what I'm gonna do in this case is I'm gonna group everything, make the mask already, and then something that I want to do is that I want to give a little more atmosphere to this specific layer. So since we already have the mask, it's pretty easy. So go back, and then I'm gonna make a little gradient over here. That way we can differentiate the different layers. How do I say this in English? The liana thing that Tarzan uses to like move, you know? Yeah, that thing. So let's start with our grass. Same thing as always, soft round brush, dissolve. But yeah, we don't want to render absolutely everything because then our eye won't know where to go, okay? And then I'm gonna do the line thing that we did for our other, so filter, so we duplicate it, Command J, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. There we go. Then since here we have our mask, I have to add this to the mask. So I just select it and add it. Same thing here. Command J, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. This background, but as I said before, we need to kind of have this guy pop out a little bit more. So we're gonna fix this. So I didn't really like this shadow, so I'm just gonna take it off. I'm gonna maybe merge the line art, maybe make it a little bit lighter. Let's make the line art here the same, but just the same color, but just a little bit darker. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's even nice when the color goes out of the lines for the line art. Steven Universe does it a lot. Still want this to be pretty light, so I'm gonna change it. And we can read our character way better. So basically the painting is done, kind of different, but you see it matches, same color, same everything, and they belong to the same universe, yeah? Something that I do think that I have to do is that I see a lot of like black shadows here, so I'm gonna go to every layer and kind of add those black shadows. Just gonna go over here, grab my black, add a little bit of that. So here's more like a fine-tuning stage. Another thing is that you do have to paint everything that is behind the layer. Like even if this area is underneath this, we still need to paint underneath because it may move because of parallaxing. And then another thing that I'm gonna show you guys is let's say you want something that affects all of your layers. Let's say you have an array over here that affects everything, okay? Let's say you want to put it in like soft light, let's say. The thing with this is that you cannot just put a soft light layer like that because this is something that comp will do, okay? So comp is basically the people that do post-production. So once the whole animation is ready, they put all of like the lighting effects and everything. So this is basically a lighting effect that may affect the character. So in this case, it's a soft light. Not every single color mode will be available for comp. Sometimes they like overlay, they like color dodge, they like screen. I think soft light is not one of those, so we're maybe gonna use overlay and put it down the opacity. We're gonna write down overlay and then the opacity, so 33. So once you're done, you would write maybe overlay, layer 1, overlay 33, and you would 33%. So this you would put on top of everything, ref, and then put it with setup. That way, when comp has your layer, they know, oh, this layer is the overlay that we have to put. And this would be layer 1 now, so we would have to change all of the names for our layers. And then one last thing that you have to do when you're painting is that we will do final layer that will help comp as a reference. So we will merge everything in our canvas. So we press Command, Option, Shift, E. So this merges your whole image into one layer, as you can see. And this is every single studio has a different way of naming this, but this is a reference for setup. So this is our final image. So let's turn off all of the layers. So it's everything merged. So that way, when they are putting the layers together in After Effects or whatever, they know where everything goes, okay? In terms of layering. So this is our final layer. So for our final file, but we turn everything on, and this is what we are going to give to our director or whatever, and they are going to give us feedback. It's very important, file naming, and every studio has a different way of naming files. They are going to teach you when you go into the studio. It usually has the code of the show that you're going to work on, maybe the episode and the sequence that you're on. It all depends studio from studio, so it's not something that I can show you guys here, but also have in mind that proper file naming is really, really important. But this is basically our final image, and you can see it side by side to the reference. It's not going to be an 100% copy, but you can tell that these two are in the same place. And here's the final piece. And yes, this video took so long to finish. As you can see, I got new glasses while I was editing this video. Sorry it took so long, but I hope that this video is useful. I hope that you guys use the layouts for practice or whatever. Always remember to credit my layouts if you add them to your portfolio or use them for social media, however you want. And then also a reminder that I have a brush pack that is completely free on Gumroad that you can check out in my description. And you'll also find the layouts and color key in the description as well in Gumroad. No need to pay, completely free. As always, thank you so much for watching this video and for all the support. I'm super happy that people are taking their time to watch my videos. Hope everyone had a happy Halloween weekend, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!